Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time and puts God first. Let's get started. Again, we are breaking down the South all week. Today is the second place in each division in both the AFC and NFC South. So that means we are starting with the Houston Texans in the AFC. Now, funny enough, both these teams to me have very similar storylines we're going to be following. The Houston Texans are one of a million teams that feel like we're just a quarterback away. The problem is, 2 years ago, you felt like you hit on the quarterback. You needed to fill out the rest of the roster. And now you've filled out the rest of the roster and the quarterback's regressed. The Houston Texans are a prime example of why you just can't assume a team, a player, an organization, barring some historical outliers of the greatest players ever, are just going to be good year in, year out, or assume, even what's harder, that they are going to win and make these deep playoff runs year after year after year. When C.J. Stroud is drafted, it was one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen, and you could argue it is the greatest rookie season we've ever seen. Him, Jaden Daniels, it's a handful of guys who are really in that conversation. C.J. was amazing. And it felt like C.J., D'Amico, if they can get this thing together, man, it's going to be special times in Houston. Then C.J. starts regressing as the Texans start building up one of, if not the best defenses in the league. So now I got the quarterback. Quarterback starts to regress. I need to fill out the roster. Now the roster's improving. But these two things, so many things have to happen, not just right and or correctly, but they need to happen on time if you want to get all the way to deep playoff runs, winning a Super Bowl. Again, this is barring unless you have a Brady, a Mahomes, a Montana, a Manning. Like, you don't have one of those guys. And they don't come around very often. You are not guaranteed just because you had a really good season and won a playoff game. We all think that it's, this lateral move up. Like, okay, we were good. Then we got into the playoffs. Now we won a game. We're just going to keep winning and winning. No. The Houston Texans are going to look at this time. If they can't pull this off, they're going to look at this 5-6 year stretch and go, we had the best rookie season ever from a quarterback, arguably. We had one of the best defenses. It was statistically one of the best defenses in 25 years. And neither of them got us to a Super Bowl. That's a real reality for Houston. Do I think they're the best team in this division? I do. I know they finished second place last year, but they got off to a really slow start. I think this defense is that good. I think Will Anderson is the second best defensive player in the National Football League. Only Myles Garrett's better than him. But even if you have this amazing defense, if you can't get C.J. Stroud not just correct and back on track to what we saw he could potentially be post his rookie year, you've also got to keep up this defense. And here's the thing. Great defenses, it is not a guarantee you are just great year after year after year unless, again, you just have one of those guys. Now, I'm convinced someone like Will Anderson, he is that great. But Myles Garrett was that great and greater, and the Browns weren't always a great defense. And they had him, Denzel Ward, a couple other guys you can mix in there. They weren't always a great defense. So the Texans are going to, you're going to look at this 3-4 year window and go, we had what people thought could be a top 5 quarterback. He played that well as a rookie. A defense that people think is historically great, where it's one of those defenses that can will you to a title, and you potentially are going to walk away from all of this with a couple of wild card wins and not much else to show for it. Again, that game last year, everybody talks about Josh Allen giving away his chance with no Mahomes in the playoffs, no Lamar in the playoffs, Burrow who doesn't make the playoffs anyway. And go, man, Josh has got to do it this year. If you're Houston, you got to feel like that same thing happened to you last year. You had the all-time defense. As great as Seattle was, and they won the Super Bowl, as great as Denver's defense was, as great as New England's defense played in the postseason, you were the defense everybody was talking about. If there was one team all last year that like their defense is good enough, man, if this offense could just get a little bit of momentum going, they're the team that can win it. And you didn't. And that's got to be frustrating. That's got to be hard. You had all that you had the opportunity to all lined up. You had the guys. You had Will Anderson. You had Daniil Hunter. You had this top. You had Derek, I almost called Denzel Ward, Derek Stingley. You should feel the same way the Buffalo Bills felt. No Mahomes, no Lamar, and Josh Allen got taken out. Now, Josh Allen got taken out technically the day after you did, but still. Like, that was supposed to be your year. A defense that could have attacked second-year Bo Nix, second-year Drake May. Again, none of the standard elite quarterbacks in the playoffs. Justin Herbert was there. We all know he can't play in the postseason. Do I think this is the best team in the AFC South? Yes. But how long is that going to be when your timeline of really good quarterback play has not lined up with your timeline of great defense? You need both. It's really hard to win, and you are not guaranteed a spot just because you were there the year before. And all these years, I'm going to tell you this is one of those stats that, and I'm going to be critical of my own team too, one of those stats that are really cool to have, but nobody cares as soon as it's gone. CJ Stroud has won a playoff game every single year he's been a starter. And if this becomes the first year he doesn't, coming off 2 back-to-back bad seasons and a horrific playoff game, no one's going to care CJ Stroud won 3 playoff games in his first 3 years. He is going to be, when they have to commit to him for a long-term contract, he's going to get a lot of side eyes and funny looks. It's a really big year for CJ Stroud. A lot of pressure. Moving over to the NFC, again, these two teams I think are really similar. So, the Buccaneers, where do we start? The Buccaneers are one of those odd franchises. We talk to Dre every Friday, and Dre's really cool. He's a Bucs fan, and he knows their history really well, and when it comes to talking about his team, he's really good at it. But the Bucs are one of those franchises. They're better historically than you think, but they're not considered one of the premier or marquee franchises. They're not a Pittsburgh. They're not a Green Bay. They're not even in that next tier of like where the Broncos sit or the Chiefs have gotten themselves in with this recent success. They're just putting it mildly, a tier 3 or 4 franchise. So when they got Brady and everything changed, you had the greatest player of all time chose to come to your team, your city, play for your team, and you had this 3 to 4 year run of what can only be described as successful on top of successful. You got a Super Bowl win. You made playoff runs. You potentially might have got another one, but the Rams in that classic game where Stafford hits the 60-yard pass to Cooper Kupp, you were because of Brady, one of the marquee franchises for a few years. And then you rebounded, and you got Baker Mayfield after Cleveland got rid of him, and you became this resilient team. You don't have Brady. You're now on to Baker, who wasn't wanted by the Browns. You got Mike Evans is still there. And you beat the Philadelphia Eagles a few years ago in the playoffs when their season just totally got away from them. Baker was on top of the world. I'm bringing all this up because I truly believe it's really, really hard if you've never had to handle a lot of money, a lot of success. It's really hard to handle them when they start coming to you. When you get your first good paying job, like I've worked for minimum wage. When I got my first good paying job, I thought I was rich. I had more money than I knew what to do with in that exact moment, so I started finding things to do with it. And the Buccaneers, again, are more successful than you think, but don't have these super, super highs. You win a Super Bowl with Brady. Baker looks like he's a franchise quarterback. Your front office looks smart. You got him on a great deal. And now it's time to deal with success. Baker wants a new contract. he's a franchise quarterback. You guys have been calling him a franchise quarterback. You guys have been singing his praises. Oh, my gosh, it's so great. Oh, we love Baker. He's just the best. Look at what we're doing. And now the bill comes due, and Baker's like, hey, remember when you called me a franchise quarterback? Remember when you said I was the best thing that ever happened to you? You remember when you said I was great? You remember when you said I was this, that, and the third? Can I get paid like that? Can I be compensated? And you're like, oh, we didn't know this came with the deal. We're not used to this. We got a quarterback wants a lot of money. Again, historically better than you think, but they're like, the Bucs are almost like the discount Bears, where you don't have a list of great franchise quarterbacks. Again, Brady was there for a couple years, but that was more like a rental. So they're not a team, for example, like the Colts, know what it's like to pay a quarterback a lot of money and how to build a roster around that. They paid Peyton a lot of money. They paid Andrew Luck a lot of money. Denver they had Peyton Manning. They had to pay him a lot of money. Excuse me. Like there's some familiarity with paying these guys. Green Bay, they know how to play. Green Bay better than anybody. Take away my Denver example. Green Bay better than anybody. We know how to do it when we have a star quarterback. We know how to build a roster around that. The Bucs don't. And so this entire offseason, not only have you pissed off the franchise quarterback, not only have you not figured out how to deal with him while being successful, because you let Mike Evans go. Again, we're going to see what happens with Tristan Wirfs. Oh, I understand now. This is a team that dealing with success, handling success, this isn't in your DNA. And now you got to go out there with Baker. And if Baker has a great season, and Baker, you're under a lot of pressure too, because if you go out there and have a great season, the Bucs are probably screwed because they're going to pay you the highest end of the quarterback market, and you're probably not good enough to do it. Or they're not good enough. You're probably not good enough to win big time in the postseason if you are making $55, $60, $65 million, whatever that number ends up becoming at the end of this next season. And the Bucs are screwed. You're screwed if you don't play very well, because then it's like, all right, what are we doing? You're not going to get much better. You're on the other side of 30. You've been great for them, but sometimes being great, and when you're in a Baker situation, it's because you're great at that $30, $40 million mark where they can still build a roster around you. Dre's boycotting the Bucs. Just outright boycotting. He does not believe in this team. He does not think I was looking at the roster. There's not a ton to love here. Like, Tristan Wirfs obviously is one of the best tackles. You could argue the best offensive tackle in football. Baker, I still believe, is good, but has his flaws. Receiving core is so-so. The defense, Vita Vea wants that. Like, there's a lot of dysfunction going on in Tampa Bay right now. Could they win this division? Yes, because it's the NFC South, and the division's not very good. But do I like their situation? If you were ranking teams in the NFC South by how good their situation feels, the Bucs are last. I'm not predicting they're going to finish last, but the Bucs are last. The Saints feel like they're heading in a positive direction. The Panthers feel like they're heading in a positive direction. The Falcons, they re-signed everybody. They got a horrible quarterback situation, but they got skilled position players, and it's a great quarterback draft class coming up. If you're Tampa Bay, it feels like you're the worst team in the division. I'm not saying you are, but it definitely feels like it. Oh, man, what a wonderful Wednesday. I promise today the videos are coming out on time. The audio is going to come out on time. We've had some interesting issues this week, but I appreciate everybody for hanging out with me this morning. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily.